Taylor Hawkins' friends criticize misleading Rolling Stone article about the Foo Fighters drummer. So it says, friends of the late Foo Fighters drummer Taylor Hawkins are pushing back against a Rolling Stone article written about the musician's final days. That's where I think that this is slightly misleading because the article is extremely in depth. I have it pulled up here. In fact, I think I'm gonna pull it up and just so you can see the absolute length of this article. So this is an enormously long and well-written piece about him, but they do feel that a bunch of their quotes.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, thank you. That hate you.
So that was Lydia's not first time.
No. And the super chat is great. It goes, heh, money's shooter go burn.
Yes.
Thank you for that, Neil.
Thank you. So you can see the length of this article. I mean, that typeface is extremely tiny.
Insane.
So they go all the way back to him as a kid and then bring it up to talking about, what happened leading up to his death. But if we go back to this article here, it says, Inside Taylor Hawkins' Final Days as a Food Fighter, published Monday, alleges that Hawkins felt hesitant about returning to the road last June and was aggravated by the grueling pace of playing nearly 3 hours of concerts every single night after night. He's 50 years old. That's like, we do this show some days, and because you work all day getting the show ready and everything, and by the time it's done, I'm freaking exhausted. Done. It's they're whether you're being yourself or not, there's still there's stuff you have to remember. There's you have to make sure to switch the camera. You have to do everything in the right order. You have to look at your notes. It sounds and looks probably I'm sure I make it look very difficult actually, but it's a lot of people make it look a lot easier than it actually is, I think. And so, to do that in the context of performing music, which is an extremely taxing and emotionally invested act, especially if you're good.
Especially if you care about it.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a drummer, that's literally your entire body is engaged in that for hours.
Cardio workout, yeah.
Not to mention, you're the drummer for David Grohl's band, which just I think they talk about that in the article where he's just kind of don't hate me because he held his previous drummers to very high standards. So it says Hawkins was found dead in his hotel room in Bogota, Colombia on March 25th. While a cause of death has not been released. That was interesting to me because I was assuming, because they said he had 10 different chemicals in his body.
Right.
So you're automatically going to lean towards overdose, right?
Possible.
But as we know, that's not really how the world works. You could have minute traces of various things in your system for quite a long time.
Well, you can have traces of supplements. You can have caffeine. You can have nicotine. All this regular stuff we use every day.
But they talk about, they say THX, which is weed, tricyclic antidepressants, benzodiazepines, and opioids, all of which are very dangerous, especially if you're mixing them. Opiates and benzos extremely difficult to or dangerous to mix together because of what it does to your heart rate and stuff like that. So it says we found his body according to preliminary. Those were all in his body when he was found. It says Foo Fighters and their management declined to be interviewed for the story. That was probably very smart. First of all, they're probably not very. They're struggling. This isn't that long after this happened. And it says a representative for the Foo Fighters referred USA Today to Pearl Jam drummer Matt Cameron and Red Hot Chili Peppers drummer Chad Smith's social media posts and gave no further comment. That's probably what I wouldn't
smart.
want. Yeah, it says Cameron was interviewed for the piece, and according to the outlet, Hawkins, quote, tried to keep up with the band's intense touring schedule. There's only a handful of guys in the profession that still play at this intense, high-energy 90s rock music. So basically, to do that year-round or to tour that consistently is very, very difficult on your body. I cannot imagine having to do that. It says he had a heart-to-heart with Dave Grohl, and he told me that he couldn't effing do it anymore. Those were his words. They says expletives, but I'm assuming that's what he said there. Cameron said, so I guess they did come to an understanding, but it just seems like the touring schedule got even crazier after that. Cameron added, a band like that is a big machine with a lot of people on the payroll, so you've got to really be cognizant of the business side of things, of something when it's that big, and there's a lot of inherent pressure just like any business. And people, I don't think they realize that. You can't just quit. Right. There's contracts. There's
and it's also harder for creative types to engage with the business side of things.
They want to do the art. They don't. Yeah,
of course. Yeah, they don't always understand exactly how it's supposed to work. All they know is that they signed this really long document, and now they can't do anything.
They feel awful.
They feel stuck.
And there's musicians who do the business side well, but when you're touring that much, you're on the road, you don't have the ability to. And I imagine that also, if we're talking about staying in shape, it's a lot harder to stay in shape when you're on the road. It's a lot harder to eat well when you're on the road. And so it says Taylor was a dear friend and a next level artist. Cameron continued, I have have only the deepest love and respect for Taylor, Dave, and the Foo Fighters families. I'm truly sorry to have taken part in this interview, and I apologize that my participation may have caused harm to those for whom I have only the deepest respect and admiration. Another friend of Hawkins, Smith, also spoke to Rolling Stone about the late Foo Fighter member. According to the outlet, Smith said that a pivotal realization for Hawkins came after he allegedly lost consciousness aboard a plane in Chicago in December. So they never found out, like, as far as I remember in my notes, like, I don't think that there was any, like, they never figured out the cause for it. Basically, pump him full of IV fluids. And if you don't know what caused it,
you just assume it was dehydration.
But that could that have played a part in his death?
Maybe so. Maybe he had some undiagnosed syndrome. I don't know.
Yeah, it says he was dehydrated and all kinds of stuff. Smith continued that that was the straw, one of the straws that broke the camel's back. After that, he had a real important heart-to-heart with Dave and management. He said, "I can't continue on the schedule, so we've got to figure something out." And then they go down here and it says, Foo Fighters canceled the remainder of their shows in 2022. Oh, it says, Taylor is one of my best friends and I would do anything for his family, Smith wrote. I was asked by Rolling Stone to share some memories of our tour, of our time together, which I thought was going to be a loving tribute, the loving tribute he deserved. Instead, the story wrote was sensationalized and misleading. And had I known, I would never have agreed to participate. See, I don't know if I don't actually think that all of it was sensationalized.
I don't think that's totally fair, but at the same time, I see that they'd be very sensitive to how it turned out, and maybe you shouldn't trust the media. Like,
good rule of thumb. Evergreen tweet.
Perhaps, but like, given the fact that they did, it's not like it wasn't as sensationalist as they said, and I had assumed that it was because I always assume the worst of
it is Rolling
the media.
Stone after all.
And Tim brings up Gell-Mann amnesia effect all the time. Like, imagine, like, so if you read this and you're a friend of Dave Grohl and Taylor Hawkins and everything, and you look at how their they believe that their quotes were taken out of context, framed in a certain way to fit a narrative that helps tell the story of this article better, and then you imagine, like, what that means for the rest of the world. And a lot of people forget that they're not just doing that. Like, if they'll do that in a tribute, if they will bastardize what you said in a tribute to an artist who's passed away, what will they do for things that they care far more about than something like this? And I think we can all agree that that's not hard to believe because we know it happens all the time. Mm-hmm. Do you think that this is something that would wake more people up if they had, like, should we actually get people to be more involved in media, like in giving quotes to the media? Maybe then they would realize how quickly and how fast the media is to take what you say out of context.
I do feel like giving a quote to the media that you then just watch them blend into oblivion is really eye-opening for a lot of people. So yeah, I agree. And I do think that media literacy is for everyone. And I do mean everyone. I think that there's no better way to realize how insanely they twist. Whoa.
Thanks.
Oh my gosh. I got to get used to this again.
So scaring you.
It's like coming at me from both angles. Anyway, you guys are doing this every day and I haven't done this since Monday, so I need to get back into it. Anyway, what I was saying about media literacy is that I feel like if you watch what you know exactly what you said and you know exactly how they're making you sound, and you're like, wait, I did not say that. Mm-hmm. That is not what I was going for, and you knew it. You were so nice during my interview.
20 years ago, it was very commonplace for the average person to dunk on the media and be like, well, they get everything wrong. Like, that was the common understanding amongst people, I feel like. Or maybe I'm assuming that, but it was like if maybe
really, I would think, like, the further back you get, the more people are able to trust the media, maybe wrongly, but they did trust basically the official narrative on something pretty quickly, or the official consensus on maybe what a certain celebrity is like. That's why everyone believed that, like, Paris Hilton was some dumb bimbo, because that's exactly what was portrayed to them.
Maybe I'm not articulate. Like, I think more what I mean is, like, when somebody gets something negative written about him in the press back in the day, they would always like, well, you can't believe anything you read in the media. That was like a very common thing to hear, but maybe it was always taken in the context of, like, that person was wrong.
Right.
So maybe there's that, but it's kind of like, now the average person, I think maybe they trusted the news like how you imagine like Walter Cronkite news,
yes, exactly.
but not necessarily like now what I think of like awful news, I think of Missing Link Media. I think of your what would be the best example of that? BuzzFeed or
BuzzFeed. Vox just put out a horrible article about breastfeeding. It's insane.
The Verge, stuff like that. Like I'm not huge fans of in the way they portray.
TMZ. We love you, TMZ.
I remember like when we started doing the show, I mentioned to Hannah Claire, I was like, I was surprised how anti-narrative they tend to be. They kind of just report the facts. And that's very awesome.
We're the same with the Daily Mail. People are like, oh, they're such a garbage tablet. I'm like, no, they're not. Go in, look at their reporting, look at the way they organize their articles, and they also always give you context. I'm like, I really appreciate having, like, if they're talking about a medical disorder, they'll tell you about the disorder. They're in the side. I think it's awesome.
I mean, in the UK, I believe the Daily Mail is a very political or like politicized publication, but in the US, it's not.
I don't know.
What's the one in the UK that everybody hates? The Sun.
The Sun.
The
Sun.
Sun.
I think
nobody
springs to mind.
Nobody likes the Sun.
Or any Johnny Depp fan.
Yeah.
Yes. So I find this interesting because I don't feel like they went out of their way to make it. They just kind of drew into. I'm going to go into the Rolling Stone article and try to find. I tried to write down paragraphs and everything, but there's so much here that down at the bottom they talk about. So they just break down what happened leading up to that to that week, and they talk about how he had what looked like white powder or what they believe could have been cocaine or something in his room, and that he said that he never played on drugs ever, so that doesn't make any sense. Which makes them think that
know that
it was like people who worked for the band said like that he did not ever play using. So if the drugs were there, he could have had them, but that doesn't necessarily mean he was using them at that time.
Yeah.
He would have put off using it until after the show. If he had a show that day, he wouldn't have consumed them. So it's like, but it's also like. Addicts, and we don't know this of him, so obviously I'm not saying that, but I'm saying speaking from my own personal experience, you get good at hiding it for periods. You can only hide it for so long, but you get very good at hiding the symptoms of it early on.
Yeah.
So we don't know if that's what's happening, but I don't blame them for being mad at the media especially for something as sensitive as somebody you really cared about passing away.
Right.
So
that's tough.
Is this something where you feel like could we use more articles because this is from USA Today? Could we use more articles I don't know if they are intentionally being willing to call out other media outlets as being kind of narrative driven, but maybe more pieces like this that are I don't think of the Rolling Stone as inherently political. So if you're calling out more general news where people don't have their bias built in. So if not to get political, but if somebody calls out Fox News and says that's bull, and you like Fox News, God help you.
How dare you?
I say if you like Fox News, God help you. You're just no, that's you're just politically biased. And on the counter side, if if somebody says CNN is bull crap, and you like CNN and God help you.
Right.
You say, no, you're just politically biased. Maybe we need people to be calling out stuff that's less polarizing to your political spectrum to get people to realize that
a stepping stone to not believing everything you read.
Well, yeah.
I mean, I still think there's a certain credibility given to a headline, and I don't understand it. But what really needs to happen is just free conversation online about these headlines. You can't really expect these companies to turn around the way that they do business.
It's too profitable and actually, I don't know. Do we still consider most of these profitable? We always talk about the media collapsing, which I think is always even that's narratively driven in its own. Are they really?
Don't hold your breath.
Laying off a couple hundred workers, yeah, that sucks. But I'm not sure if I buy that they're all actually collapsing as they were.
No.
There's still people who consider this part of their daily internet routine to go onto these sites and read these articles. Yeah. I don't know if maybe the best thing we could do is to find less polarizing topics and use those as a way to kind of help people understand that they're not out to help you.
Possibly so. Yeah. To me, this USA Today article definitely just reads how YouTubers get into spats with each other?
Yeah.
They're just sparring with each other, and everyone's just oh, yeah, you're doing great, sweetie, taking pictures or whatever. And it's maybe this is what they're doing because I don't trust USA Today any more than I trust Rolling Stone, and I don't trust Rolling Stone at all. after the numerous articles they've written that are they seriously just made them up out of whole cloth. I'm just like, why would I trust you for anything? So I'm glad, and on the one hand, I'm glad that another, source is calling out Rolling Stone, but on the other hand, it's like, really, USA Today, you're really not that much better. You were just lower profile with your crazy articles.
Yeah. So another thing is like, if you want to understand the reach of like the Foo Fighters, I was passing by Ben's desk earlier, and there was like a Foo Fighter. I believe it might have been like Spotify or like like their music playing.
Yeah, they're ubiquitous.
And
I
was watching an old skate video last night, and it had 2 Foo Fighter songs just in that video, and it was from like 97 or 98. I was watching on YouTube, so it kind of baffles me that people forget how big a band like that was, but then they still shape a narrative around it, and it's like you could show a little bit more respect for somebody who ultimately seemed like a very, very good person.
I want to know what Rolling Stone was going for with this article. Were they just trying to commemorate him?
Most of it felt that way
like
to me.
Trying to report the facts.
Most of it felt very, very like in memoriam to me. Like there's this
don't see any narrative being driven.
Yeah. There is a great, like I said, they could just be those friends of his could just be very raw right now from still being emotionally from struggling.
Well, they closed the article saying that one of his friends called him up and like couldn't even speak because he was so emotional, and it's like that seems terrible. Why would you write about that? Why not give it some time? Oh, right, because that's not dramatic enough. That's not going to get you the clicks you want.
This was the one that stuck with me. It was this girl who like waited all day to see him and like got a picture with him, and it's like that's like he clearly touched a lot of lives.
Right.
It's like I wish more. Maybe they should be like when TMZ ever reports a death. Now, obviously, this is a very different article. TMZ just writes a basic rundown of what happened, that what they know as far as that time, what caused the death, and then they put our rest in peace at the bottom of the piece, and they do they refrain from editorializing,
right?
Which is what they should be doing. Exactly. But that's not really Rolling Stone's purpose in the context of this,
right?
But it's a bummer because I don't know if you're a writer like. Maybe he didn't feel that he was being disrespectful,
Sure. He, a little bit of criticism for the author. Sorry, Andy Green. He opens it in this way that I hate, where it's like, it was a muggy day. Dude, I don't care. Just tell us what you're going to tell us.
When they were in journalism school, that's what they were taught to do. Like, so they have to stick to the formula.
No, you don't have to. Please break away. And so this irritates me too. So the title is Inside Taylor Hawkins' Final Days as a Foo Fighter. Mm-hmm. Okay. The legendary drummer went all out for the band he loved. Yes, we know this. But in the months before he died on tour, Hawkins told multiple friends he couldn't effing do it anymore.
He was clearly struggling.
Zero
obviously.
work life or like semblance of a work life balance.
That's the problem with touring.
And they mentioned in the article that like that he heard them, but then more dates got added, and so I'm sure that was like kind of feels like the last straw, stuff like that. Like, that can't be easy.
Then after his death, how would that make you feel? As one of his bandmates or friends.
Why did you have to? You had to earn more money. You had to add a few more dates. This poor guy.
Yep, and they're only human, and they're only alive for so long. So
not long in his case.
Mary, was there a super chat in there?
Yes. Well, we already read the money shooter go.
I love that.
But have you guys? Curtis Terry says, have you guys covered The Witcher and or the Marilyn Monroe documentary? If so, what episodes?
We have not. The Witcher is Andrew here is a big fan of The Witcher. High fantasy doesn't really do it for me. That's it's like I don't know if it's the way the linguistics are done in it. I have a hard time sticking through it. Like I made it through Game of Thrones like literally out of like social responsibility,
sheer willpower.
Because like I felt like I had to, otherwise I wouldn't be part of the conversation. But I did not play the Witcher games or read the Witcher books. But it may be interesting if it's something people would want to cover. It would be it's possible we could look up because I believe season 3 is coming out, and I do support just about anything that has Henry Cavill in it because Henry Cavill is
that guy.
One of us, right?
One of us, indeed.
So
at least he appears to be.
Yeah, he's great.
Well, there's this great meme that says like it's like a girl like making a face. She's like, "I love geeks."
Thank you. Should I read that now or later?
Yes, in a minute. It's like, so in the memes, like it's like she's like, I love geeks, and it's like the geeks that she likes, and it's Henry Cavill with just these enormous forearms, like building his computer from scratch. And I was like, of course that's the geeks you like, because geek is cool now. So go ahead.
Bodies X Wix Crypto Smart Money Explained said he played drums on MYT my favorite album. That was just a typo. Coheed and Cambria's Good Apollo. I'm Burning Star 4?
4.
Okay. Welcome Home. That was Taylor Hawkins.
I don't know if Welcome Home was an album, but Welcome Home, the song by Coheed and Cambria, is absolutely incredible.
I think I've heard that one.
Not my genre, but definitely. I don't know if it's maybe because it was so popular, but that song ended up in. There was like a phase where that song ended up in like a bunch of skate videos for like the intro because of how it's how the song is organized. So that is very, very good.
Caper 2X said, the new Star Trek versus the Orville. You decide. Knife fight. Whoa.
The Orville is the answer to that, as far as I know. I don't know anybody who likes the new Star Trek.
I've not seen either, so I will refrain from knife fighting, even though that sounds so exciting.
Yeah, it does sound exciting.
It's a bummer to see Star Trek go that way because Anson Mount is a great actor. He's in, and so he was in a show called Hell on Wheels, which was really, really good. So hopefully he will move on. He was also in the most recent Doctor Strange movie, resuming his horrible character from Inhumans, which is objectively the worst thing that Marvel ever made, though there's growing stiff competition for that, which we will talk about at the end with the She-Hulk trailer. But Anson Mount is a great actor, so hopefully he will move on and do more stuff. Thanks for watching this clip, guys. If you want to see full episodes or follow us on social media, links are in the description below. Bye.